Joshua chapter 14, verses 6 through 15. Amen. Amen. Now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me. I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land, and I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day, Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that of your children forever, because I have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years. Everybody say 45 years. He's kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses, while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. Now, if y'all getting this, you're hearing him say that at 85, I'm as strong as I was at 40. Ooh. I'm as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I am just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there and their cities were large and fortified. But the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said. Then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, after Arba, who was the greatest man among the Anakites. Then the Lord had rest, then the land, had rest from war. Then the land had rest from war. I want to just say and just remind us that God is able to give us a second wind.
That's good.
A second wind. And God is able to also give us a second wind. So I gave you two words, a second wind, W-I-N, you got it, I see you. I see you. And God is also able to give us with that a second wind.
Oh my God, that's good, sir.
God is able to give us Somebody say a second wind. I love this because, you know, one of my favorite poets, I'm going to quote today. Somebody say his favorite, one of his favorite poets. I won't tell you the name just yet. I'm going to read the poetry. It says like this. It says, people of faith, we are people of faith. We know God will do just what he says. But being honest with ourselves, sometimes we struggle with ourselves. Delay has caused us to question our faith. This poet says, I'm a person of faith. I know God will do just what he said, but being honest with myself, sometimes I struggle with myself. Where did the time go? Some of y'all gonna feel this in a minute. Is it slipping away? But I heard God speaking so, and he wants me to let you know that you will be as strong now as you were then. Your gift will be as relevant now as it was back when. I anointed you and I blew breath in you before. Somebody said the wind of God. And I can do it again. Why? I am God. And I give you a second wind. Somebody say, I am God. And I give you a second wind. That's from the pen of Maestro Donald Lawrence, friend of mine back in the day. Donald Lawrence wrote the song, which is really poetry. You know, we don't see it, but when you take it out of the music and just read the words, it reads like a poetry. Donald says, I am God and I give you a second wind. So here we are with Caleb. After 45 years since they went out, a little backstory with Caleb. Caleb was one of how many spies? 12 spies Moses sent out to go spy out what? The promised land. We know that all 12 spies came back with a report. 10 of them were not positive, and 2 were. The only 2 that came back with a positive report were Joshua and Caleb. The 2 of them came back with a positive report. Everybody else said, no way we can deal with these people. They are stronger than us. They are mightier than us. Matter of fact, some of them said, we look like grasshoppers in their eyes. They said, we look like little grasshoppers. They could just step on us and we are dead. We look like grasshoppers in their eyes. But when we hear the next voices, who are really Joshua and especially Caleb, who stills, S-T-I-L-L, the people. Because the people were anxious, they were angry, they were upset. Matter of fact, they were mad with Moses, saying, why did you bring us out of Egypt? We were better as slaves. At least we knew what we were going to eat, what we were going to drink. We didn't have to fight. Yeah, we had it hard, but you should have left us in Egypt. We could have just stayed there and died. But yet you brought us out here, and here we are in this wilderness trying to get over to a land. And now you got to understand that when you just think about psychologically how people think, if 12 of us go out and 10, the majority say it's a problem, but 2 say it's not a problem, most folks don't listen to the majority. Matter of fact, they're gonna look at the two that come back with a good report. They're gonna be like, y'all crazy, you know. But in their eyes, they were looking through the eyes of God, because as Caleb reminds the man of God, he said, I trusted God wholeheartedly. Somebody said wholeheartedly. Now, some of you all, I can tell, I can feel it, because you're like me, you're human. And you're human, like Donald Lawrence said, you're in this human body. And I know you trying to live right and trying to do all you know. But many of you, when I said the word wholeheartedly, you immediately started pulling away. You started saying, well, I don't know if that's me. I love God, but I don't know if God would call me. I could say that I'm perfect and I'm wholehearted in all of these situations. You would be like me, probably say, oh, that's a lot. That's because I'm not perfect and I don't do. But you got to understand, wholehearted trust doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. Woo. I got one amen, thank you. Wholehearted don't mean you don't make mistakes. Wholehearted trust in God don't mean stuff don't happen. Wholehearted trust in God don't mean sometimes you don't get angry. Wholehearted trust, that means sometimes you don't fall. Just think about it. Look back at David. David was a man after God's own heart. David loved God with everything. David is the same one that trusted God, but even David, somebody say even David, messed up. David made some mistakes. And let me just tell you, some of the mistakes we make are treacherous. Somebody said sometimes they're treacherous. There's some hard mistakes. There's some deep mistakes. There's some bad mistakes, but it doesn't mean that I don't love God. Somebody said, doesn't mean that I don't love God. Doesn't mean I don't trust God. And most of us, we don't even realize many times we are trusting God wholeheartedly, even when our faith gets a little weary. David said, look at me, I'm trusting God in spite of. This same David is the one that comes through for God in the end. David becomes a king, and so it is we get to Caleb and Joshua. Here they are, even in this situation, trusting God. Somebody say, I trust God. Come on, say it again. I trust God. You got to trust God in spite of. You got to trust God when you don't feel like it. You got to trust God when it doesn't look good. You got to trust God. Somebody say, I trust God. You got to understand that many times wholehearted trust is that trust that gets us to that place where we know God is able. Somebody just say, God is able. Come on, say, God is able. We say it in spite of what we feel like, in spite of what it looks like, in spite of every situation. Somebody say, God is able. Say it again, God is able. We sing it all the time. That's why after all these years, y'all still sitting up here. You still on Zoom. You still, after all you've been through, you still trusting it. Oh yeah, I need more than one hand. Latrell, here, come on. I need y'all to help Latrell out with them hands. Help him out with it. Come on, because you still trusting God after all I've been through. Caleb said, yes, I trust you wholeheartedly. Look at all you've been through, and look where you still end up. You still end up back in the same place. No matter how far you run, no matter how much you've been through, you still bounce back. After all of that, folks look at you and say, you still trusting God? That's because you realize that, yes, after all of this, I guess I really do trust God wholeheartedly. Caleb said, I trusted you wholeheartedly. But I love this because Caleb said, and then the catch is, God has kept me in such a way that I'm as strong now at 85. Now, some of y'all ain't ready for this. I'm as strong now at 85 as I was at 40. Let that sit with y'all a little bit. And now, see, sometimes you think about this and say, come on, wait a minute now. That's a stretch for us. But you got to understand in context, even then people were living much longer than we live today. So really, that's not really a stretch. 85 then, you know how we like to say, 50 is the new 40 and 60 is the new 50 and this is the new that. Well, you know what? 85 for him was the new 40. Because, folks were living to 100, 150 years old. Folks were living longer than somebody just died just recently. Today we found out at 114 years old. A lady just died at 114 years old. So when you put it in comparison, when you put it in context, even today, things are coming together even closer. And so for us, it's like me saying that today at 57, I'm stronger and I'm wiser now than I was at 27. Now, y'all might be tripping with me right now, but you got to understand, I'm a whole lot wiser. I'm a whole lot further along in life at 57 than I was at 27. I know I made some decisions. I've had some rough times. I've had some hills to climb, but I wouldn't go back to 27 based on where I am today. I know some of you would trade 27 for 57, but I'm here to tell you what I know. And it takes being 57 to understand that I wouldn't trade going back to 27. Because there's some stuff I had to deal with at 27, I don't want to deal with at 57. Some stuff I went through then, I don't want to go through now. Some mistakes I made them because I was so ignorant. I was so green. Some things you don't even learn until you get a certain age. Some things you're not wise enough, you're not in a position to understand. Look at them, they didn't even get sent out until they were 40. And here he is now after they've come into the promised land. Here he is at 85. And Caleb said, look, I'm as strong now as I was at 40. I got everything I need. Matter of fact, he says, I'm in a position now that you give me my inheritance. Yeah, I know I got to fight for it, but I got another win, W-I-N in me. Somebody say, I got another win in me. Now, I want to encourage somebody today that I don't care if you 25, 35, 45, 55, whatever age you are, 65, 75, I believe within my heart, you still got another win in you. Some of you got 2 or 3 more wins than you, but I'm here to get you into this place where you got a win. I've got another win because we serve the God of a second win and a second wind. God is able to blow into your life, and all it takes is one from God to propel you. I was looking at something last night, and wasn't part of my message, but I just thought about it. They were talking about many years ago how people would travel from Africa to all of these lands, that passageway, because they understood that at certain times of the year, they knew nautically when the wind would be as high as it needed to be, and they literally said there were times and seasons when they could launch out into this particular lane that took you from Africa to these other parts of the world, and they almost didn't even have to row because the wind was so strong the whole way till they could just almost just allow their boats to just be in the water, and the wind would blow them from one area of the continent to the other. Somebody said, oh, by the wind. So that told me, and it tells me today, sometimes all you need is a good wind. Somebody said, all I need is a good wind. All you need is one just breath of God to launch your life. And people, I've seen it, we've seen it over and over, where people say, I thought my life was over. I didn't know I would be in this position. I didn't know this would happen. But I'm here to tell you, that's what happens when you understand we serve the God of a second wind. Somebody say, I'm encouraged. I'm getting encouraged. We serve the God of a second wind. And I don't know about you, but I'm gearing up. I'm gearing up. I'm gearing up for the next wind and the next wind in my life. Somebody just shout with me, sails up, sails up.